Welcome to Marathon Meeples' top replayable games in our collection 20 to 11.
Number 20 I'm starting off with is the Gloomhaven system. So right here I have Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. This can go for Gloomhaven. This can go for the new Frosthaven. I think this might be low for some people and maybe right for others or high for others. I think if you are into Gloomhaven, you have that big box, you're playing it 100 times. With this, you're playing it like 50 times. If you're going to play through the whole system, this may very well be the number one game. If you're going to dabble and maybe kind of go back and forth based on what a campaign game is, you get 15, 20 games. It's still very replayable.
And I just love the fact that you're kind of carrying out a story, you're moving around, the book changes, the scenery. So there's just a lot of thought, and every scenario is different and it feels different.
So I think maybe why it's 20 for us is like we're maybe like 6 games into this, 7 games into this. We had a bunch of other stuff come in. It's sat for a while. I don't know if we're gonna get it back. Like, what do you think? Because we gotta relearn the mechanics, the story. I gotta catch myself back up. I gotta refresh. I feel like I gotta be fully committed to this. And with so many games, it's such a big challenge. And I can imagine, like, if you have the big box versions with 100 games in it, that's a gigantic challenge.
I will say that a lot of the top replayable games, especially the heavier ones, they're replayable when you keep playing them. So you almost need to get it out once a month in order to remember those heavy beasts, in order to keep getting them out. I did really enjoy this, but like you said, if we are going to get it back out, we got to dedicate our time to relearn it, and then we need to play another 5 or 6 games in a row to make it count. And I'm sure we'll enjoy every one of them. It's just investing that time to get it back to the table.
Yeah, that's why I haven't got rid of it, and I don't think I'm going to. I'm holding out hope that one day
we will get it back to the table.
We're going to come back. But in terms of gameplay and just how everything changes and you're leveling up like an RPG game, definitely very, very, very replayable.
Coming in at 19 is Sangrata, and it's kind of the opposite of Gloomhaven. You can pick that game up and play it after not playing it for a year. We were at a con this year, and we had a little bit of free time, just the two of us, so we grabbed a box, threw it on the table, and we're playing it again within, 5-6 minutes?
Yeah, it's easy.
It has next to no setup time. It's fun for anybody. You don't even need to be a gamer because the learning curve is so low. And what I love is you can take different levels of difficulty all around the table. So somebody who's just learning the game could have a level 1 code, and somebody who has played the game, 20 times could have a higher level code. So that's kind of a neat thing too, to balance out your game and let everybody have fun, kind of playing on an even playing field.
Yeah, it's easy to play with multiple players. It doesn't slow the game down really. If you're playing with 4, you're playing with 2. It slows down a bit, but not a lot. I think the app version helps. I know you've downloaded the app in the past. I think it's one of those games where you hit on it. It's just the replayability comes from just how easy it is to play the game. Just get it on the table and play it.
And it's fun. Like, it's simple decision making, but you're always making a decision. It's fast. You're never left with nothing to do because you're constantly checking what people are doing. If somebody took the die you wanted, because it's a dice drafting game, you need to quickly come up with another game plan. And you're trying to map out a pattern based on the code you have. So you're constantly thinking, and there's really no downtime, which again, I think adds to replayability.
Number 18 is Great Western Trail. This is Great Western Trail Argentina. I think Great Western Trail, the old version, the new version, the upcoming versions, because now it's going to turn into an IP, I guess. I don't know. They all work, and I think they're all very replayable. In Great Western Trail, you are just kind of moving around the board. You get some cows. You're trying to ship them off. You're trying to make some money. I think a lot of the replayability comes from just the variety of the tiles, how you build out your workers, and then just what kind of buildings you want to build and where you build them. So there's lots of different variability all over the board.
Yeah, and the way you build your buildings and how other people build their buildings, because it's going to totally change the paths you take, where you go, and how you move, because it's going to cost you money if you're landing on other people and the way you're traveling.
Yeah, and like, even though I find in most games of Great Western Trail, we're all kind of going for those same bonus spots, you still, since you know that everybody's going for those bonus spots, that kind of changes how you're playing as well, because you're like, it becomes a race aspect for like those really obvious goals.
Coming in at 17 is Glass Road, and if any of you have ever watched some of our other videos, this holds dear to my heart because we got it at our first marathon that we ran together. So it has a little bit of nostalgia to it.
I knew that was coming.
But
you have to explain what the marathon was, because like, why is there a glass road sitting at a marathon?
It was the Corning Wine Glass Marathon, and it was attached to the Corning Glass Museum. Okay, it's a solid game as well.
Awesome, yeah.
It's not just because of nostalgia, but the whole game itself, the fact that it has double rondelles, you're going to be getting your resources, they're going to max out as you spend them, your wheel rotates, and it reduces all of your resources, not just necessarily the ones that you spent. So it's really a balancing act kind of game, and then you're also building out what bonuses you have and how that's gonna work.
Yeah, it checks like my replayability boxes. It's fast, it's fun, it's quick to set up, it's quick to tear down, it's good at multiple player counts, it's good at 2, it's good at solo. It's just a fun experience. Number 16 is Anachrony. This is the Essential Edition. We own an expansion. I've only used it for solo. I haven't felt the need to even play the rest of the expansion yet. There's tons of game in this box. This company, I find, probably more than almost any other, does such a great job that when you get a Mind Clash game, it's like you're getting multiple games in a box, because they're always giving you unique characters, asymmetrical powers, A/B sides to pretty much everything. Tons of variety, tons of cards. Yeah. There's so much game, even in just this Essential Edition.
Well, and just the number of tiles, the number of everything that they give you. There's so many that a lot of times you can play a game and you're not even seeing the tile that you might be hoping for at some point, because there's just such variety.
I'm not usually like a buy the extra kind of mini guy, but I find for this game, it's worth it. Like those minis, it's like $30, but they're chunky, and it just adds a lot to the game.
It's incredible. You put your guy in a suit and you're motioning around these giant chunky minions, or I'll call them minions for the sake of it. And it's just so much fun. It's so much better than putting it on a little cardboard disc.
Yeah, the cardboard disc isn't bad, but get the minis if you can.
Number 15 is Point Salad. As the name states, it's a point salad. And you can score points in so many different ways. And right there, everybody is a winner, no matter how badly they do.
Everybody is a winner. Wow, that's. Well, I'm just going to leave that one alone. Point Salad is another game where this is really easy to teach. You can play this with, like, I find this is a game you can get to the table with non-gamers. They just look at it and they go, oh, it's easy, especially...
My mother plays it, which right there, I know you don't want to say it because she's your mother-in-law. I'll say it. If it's a game that we can get to the table, and the reason I say everybody is a winner, my mother feels like a winner if she's in last place, but she scored her cards. Regardless of how low her score is, she has a hoot as long as she's able to score each card once. She has fun, and I think that there's a lot to be said about a game where it doesn't matter how good you are accomplishing some kind of goal, having a good time, not a lot of rules overhead. Iconography cannot be simpler, and it's colorful, bright, and fun.
It's fun, it's interactive. The only thing I don't like is, like...
It could be a deck of cards.
I could put all this in... Yeah, well, I think it is just a little bit more than a deck of cards. So, the only thing I would say is this box does not need to... Come on. But, other than that, I think it's a great game. It's easy to play. There's enough variability in it. And you're paying attention to what other people are doing. You can play this nice, and you can also play it mean, too, which I think is like an interesting dynamic. Because you can almost like hate like take cards from people on this as well. Number 14, is this 14 now?
It is.
Okay, I'm just thinking of how much trouble I'm in later. Number 14 is Nemo's War. This is the Ultimate Edition. I think as long as you have the newer, like Victory Point, this kind of box style game, you're good to go in terms of replayability. It's based upon
20 Leagues Under the Sea.
Okay, we watched the Disney movie, so I should remember this. We talked about that. In this game, you're rolling a lot of dice, which adds to a lot of the variability, and there's a number of cards. So you have different goals that you're trying to complete at the game based on what kind of like captain you're going to be. But how you're going to get there is completely different, because sometimes you're fighting monsters, you're getting loot, you're rolling dice, you're moving things up and down. There's just so much variety that you're never going to play the same game, ever.
Yeah, I mean, every time we played it, we've had completely different outcomes. Pope has gone after different things, and we've had fun every time. I don't think there's one time where we said, oh, wow, that was a terrible strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, score-wise, maybe.
And we've played this, like, to me, this is a solo game that we can play together as a multiplayer game. The Ultimate Edition adds a 1 versus 1. It adds a couple different things. To me, it's a solo game, and that's fine because it does a really good job at what it does.
Number 13 is Biblios. So this is the original Biblios done by Ilio. There is a new quill and parchment Biblios. But what I love about this is it's so simple. It's a deck of cards, colored dice, and a little tiny tray that allows you to manipulate what things are worth, which I think is fascinating because somebody could have an entire set of cards that would score amazing, and you can turn the dice from 5 points to 1 point per card. So you're manipulating, then you're set collecting at the beginning, discarding some cards, then at the second stage of the game, you bid on things. So there's just lots to do.
Yeah, I'm always trying to do the same thing, but it's very difficult to pull it off every game. It's a very quick game to play. It plays, I think it's really good once you add more than 2 people. At 2, it's awesome. It's one of my favorite 2-player games. But even 3 and 4, I think it's also a very good game. There's nothing bad I can say about this. It's just, it's quick, it's easy, it's fun, and you have to do a little bit of thinking. You're doing bidding, you're doing blind bidding, you're trying to think, what are they going for? What am I going for? So you have those great moments in board games I like to call just the pauses, where you're just sitting there, you're about to play something, and you pause for a second, you're like, should I be doing this? And there's tension.
Yeah.
Number 12 is Twilight Struggle, a game you don't like playing with me. I would always play a game of Twilight Struggle. It's very difficult for me to play it, mostly just because you get trounced at it and you don't like that.
Yeah, I have nothing against the game. I have things with him in the game. He understands the history so well. He knows what codes to keep because he knows in history what it did and how it's going to help him. I read the card. Nope, don't need that one. Or, yeah, that one looks good. And I get trounced, annihilated.
Yeah, it's a Cold War game where one person's the USSR, one person's the USA. You're kind of just battling it out across the globe for influence, essentially. Make partnerships, take them away from the other player, and it's just like a lot of coup d'etats across the game. This game, I find from a replayability standpoint, is it gets better the more you play it. So the first time you play it, you'll always get trounced by another player if they've played it a couple times, and also hopefully they go easy on you. But the more you play it, the more you understand what you're trying to accomplish in certain rounds of the game, and then you're just going to play your cards differently. So this is a game, there's a ton of tension in this, and every card you play, every decision you make is a hard decision to make. There are times where you have to almost have poison pills, where I'm going to play a card that I know is going to benefit my opponent. So it's a unique kind of game. It's a card-driven game. There's different versions of this now. They're coming out with the shorter versions, but I think the OG is the way to go, and you could play this hundreds of times, and I know people that have.
And I will say, it is a well-developed game. It's a solid game. I enjoy the beginning of the game, but by midway through, I am normally so annihilated and disheartened because everything I've put on, he has taken off. But I will say, even though I get slaughtered, it's still a quality game with good gameplay.
Yeah, there's an app for this. So I have the app. So when you don't want to play, sometimes I just play the app. So if you want to dip your toe in and try this out, you can get the app for like $6, whatever it may be, and you can try it out that way. And the AI is pretty good in that. It's still not as good as playing against you, though.
Yeah, that's because he always wins. All right, so coming in at number 11 is Viticulture. We only have Viticulture World as our box right now because it's somewhere back there.
I'm not digging it up.
And I didn't feel like digging. So it is a game that we've had in our collection since very early on. We live in a...
2014.
There you go. We live in a wine region and we bought it and I just fell in love. The variety I find in this game comes from the fact that you're getting different codes. So you have different summer codes, winter codes. Now we have a little expansion that's called the Mamas and Papas. It comes in, I think, the essential version now. And what's awesome about that is it changes up what each player starts with. So you even kind of start off in different places a little bit, and then you're building buildings. Every building's giving you something different.
Yeah, the cards will drastically change what you're doing every game. Sometimes, to me, it's more of a card-driven worker placement game that, depending on what my cards are in my hand, that's the route I'm going to take. I can't at the start of the game say, I'm really going to make heavy wine, and then I get a hand of cards. It's like, okay, I got to do some other stuff. So that is one thing I do find, but that adds a replayability. I can go in with a light strategy. I might want to try this, but really, I'm going to have to be very tactical throughout the game based on what my opponents are doing and space blocking and what my cards are in my hand. One thing I really like about this game, they support the system continually. So they have Viticulture, they have Tuscany, they have all this Viticulture World, which is new, like cooperative expansion. But another thing they do, which I wish a lot of games did, is they just do like a small deck of cards that changes some things up, and they're like $10, and it completely, it's almost like a whole brand new game, but I don't have to buy a whole new game. That's one thing I wish a lot more developers would do.
Yeah, and I have to say, even though, as he's talking about small games or small expansions, the big expansion of Viticulture World, it changes a competitive game into a co-op game beautifully, I think. And it's really difficult. So if you kind of feel like you've played Viticulture a lot and you want that one new thing, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great system in general. So I think you can start with the base box.
Yes.
And then if you like it, base essential edition now, and that comes with more stuff, you can kind of add some of these different things on, or you can just sit around and just play the base, and then, you know.
We played the base for ages before we ever took the shrink off of Tuscany, because we bought the two together.
Yeah, and it still holds. It's a very simple gameplay loop that you're going through, but even though that game, I think it came out in 2012, it's like 10 years old plus, it still holds up.
Yes, I think so. And so for us, this is 20 to 11. I would love to hear what you guys think now that we're getting higher up in our list. And if you like this video and want to see our last segment, make sure to hit the subscribe button.